Too
It's
cool.
kind of it's kind of curious. It's kind of a curious question on like when did the whole thing become this on-chain pen and paper role-playing game, right? Um, like looking back through the messages, to me it seems like at some point after the Wilted Rose mint, we received these sort of ciphered messages where suddenly it was kind of like, oh, maybe this is a game.
Yeah, I agree with
And
you.
I
There was
think
a
like
shift in
at
the
least
vibe when the minting started. Before it seemed much
exact
more mysterious and small in a way, and then
exactly.
when the new minting shifted into a new gear.
So at least in my perception, it was when after that mint, when the ciphered messages popped up, it was kind of like, oh, okay, this could be like some sort of it could be really the first on-chain pen and paper role-playing game where Dom is the game master, we're the players, and like all role-playing, like all pen and paper role-playing games, it's kind of like a sort of practice of decentralized storytelling. So the players always have some leeway in steering the story, and and I think that was about the moment when roughly after the Wilted Rose, where I thought, oh, okay, this could be a game. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, one of those moments that really cemented it was also a beautiful poetic moment of generosity from Dom, the game master. We did this Wilted Rose deviation, and I think there's only, 64 of them? Is that right, 64? And they're only 64. Right. Not everyone got one. Later on, I was like, shit, and we missed it. A little bit of that FOMO vibe, and I don't think the intent here is FOMO at all. And one of the things that Dom then did is, well, one of the things we did is we responded back across the chain. We said, we've received the perennials. We acknowledge. Thank you. He responded in his amazing way. Okay. And then hours later, not even hours later, minutes later, he responded back and said, OX1 to address, meaning OX1, which is the Wilted Rose that he deviated himself. So he deviated one of his own roses or one of his own corruptions into a rose. So he had one of these 64 that were, this hot, awesome commodity. He said OX1 to address, as in, send me an address.
A gift.
I want to send this rose to the community.
Wow.
I want to send this, one of 64, almost original piece of art, the number one, to you guys. And that was just a pure cementing of that. Yeah, this is a game. We're all playing this together. And like, what a beautiful moment of generosity. Also, that really, I think, helps set the vibes and the tone for what this corruptions community is, which is not, the FOMO, trader sniping vibe at all.
Yeah, when does this lead to a 10K
PFP? Building together.
Where is the 10K PFP in the project? Is that the next contract, or
we're all going to be wilted roses? But it was so beautiful. So he sent it to this. He said OX1 to address. And he said, well, shit, I guess we now need to start a DAO. We even have a channel inside of our Discord called and now we're a DAO. As in, like, we didn't even realize we were going to be a DAO, but I guess Dom needs to send this rose to somewhere, so let's make a multi-sig. And it was just an awesome moment of him sort of steering us and blessing the idea of the community being half of the game, or maybe the community being the game.
It's so cool. I guess my mind is drawn to some of the technical questions. I'm glad you said Gnosis, because it's like, in a way, if I haven't played any pen and paper games or I've never played Dungeons and Dragons either, but my sense is that it's like a Twitter Spaces almost. You want to guide it in a way where it's like a nice conversation for everyone. If you're the whatever dungeon master, so you want but it is also an exercise in the same kind of social organization with the amount of trust that people are giving to multi-sig based DAOs on another part of Ethereum. And then you end up creating one. However, there's it's already a trusting. I feel like if there were people who were very is there toxicity? It seems like there needs to be cooperation between the people who are working on your side and the artist on the other side.
I mean, anyone can take this. I can just say we got pure positivity in this Discord so far. It's been so awesome to see. It's actually gone so far that maybe it's a Discord invention, I don't know, but we made a role called active players because we didn't want anyone to ever feel left out. We didn't want anyone to ever feel like, something's happening and you missed an opportunity to mint or whatever. So everything we've been doing, we've been trying to adapt to the human vibes. Obviously we are also degens sometimes, But that's not what this is about at all. This is about like, let's come together and vote on something. Let's come together and brainstorm something. And so we created a role called active players. And anytime even something small happens, we can ping active players without, dropping that dreaded at everyone tag on Discord. And everyone's coming together and just talking about brainstorming ideas. We can get into some of them more, but it's been a really, really positive experience for a lot of us. And
it's really the polar opposite.
Is a perfect example.
It's polar opposite of the roadmap. Like, there is no roadmap, and we are gonna make it together, friends. Like, I presume that the actions that you've taken have had large impacts on what's happened, right? Maybe Shrews, do you want to tell us? Yeah, I guess so. Maybe Shrews, you want to jump in?
Did want to join. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Maybe you can also talk about the AMA yesterday too.
Yeah, I think Dom did mention that the bidirectional aspect was not initially his intent. But he's been working on things like A-Quest for loot. So I think he's had a lot of these kind of like mechanism ideas that he's been wanting to play around with. So in the AMA yesterday, for example, he mentioned that this is basically A-Quest alpha in some ways. But I don't think it was his initial intent to have this actually turn into like an interactive, co-op game with the community.
Interesting. Okay, it was the alpha for. I don't even know about this project he's doing for loot. Do you want to describe that briefly?
Yeah, it is at a.quest, like that's the URL. But it was Dom basically teasing an actual like story for loot that he wants to build. There's some details on it. I don't want to like misspeak for what it is or what it will be, but a.quest is a website that people can go check out for that.
Do you have a sense of what the shared elements are? Like, what makes Corruptions a kind of alpha for it?
I think on-chain storytelling mechanics. So a lot of this like pen and paper stuff that we keep bringing up, like him being able to essentially tell a story over time with an active audience that are NFT holders. So it becomes more than art. It becomes like a ticket to the experience. That I think is part of it. There's also some like story structure stuff that he might be playing with. He's mentioned that deviations, like these wilted roses, for example, are like an end game state, meaning they're permanent and they do not allow you necessarily to participate more in ongoing corruption stuff.
That's very cool.
It's a little bit, yeah.
Cool distinction.
Yeah, it's like if in like a role playing game where there's multiple endings, each one of these NFTs essentially turns into one of those endings. So the NFTs function a little bit more like a bookmark in a choose your own adventure story, or a save state in like a video game.
It's interesting that like traditional IP has this kind of usually like firewall between what is canonical and what is fan art, and this stuff seems to really cut at that. Like, because given that it's all on chain, like someone could make a derivative of this. I presume it's CC0 or similar. So you could make a derivative project that does allow you to continue the story from what was defined as an endpoint in the original lore canon. But then at the same time, the same people who are likely to do that are actually talking to the developer as it's happening. So I think that's like very unusual.
I want to unpack that one for just a sec. I wish Dom was here. I should have asked him this during the AMA yesterday too. But we were holding ourselves back, not knowing if this was CCO or not. And actually, I'm not even sure I know. I don't know if he's commented.
Loot is technically does not have a license as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't think there's a license on this, but in the Discord AMA yesterday, he did encourage people to build derivatives or build whatever they wanted on top of it.
Yes, yeah. So that's, I guess, opens up a whole new level of this. The community has started to build some NFT stuff, and actually we're going to get to that in a second. But there's a whole brainstorm in the community right now about building a game using these, what Shrews is calling bookmarks, using these like end states, these deviations, building some sort of actual game, like a playable card game or something. And I think we were like pumping the brakes a little bit, like, is this okay? Are we going to mess with this project too much if we go too wild? But I think just yesterday, and I would love Dom to re-encourage this, but just yesterday I got the blessing to say, yeah, go forth, go create crazy stuff here, especially from these end states. The end states within the game are sort of beginning states for creativity.
So cool. Yeah, Shrews, did you want to pick up from there, or Scott? We kind of cut you off.
No, I agree with everything Tim Shell said. I also do want to just quickly say, when he initially sent, because his first response back to our first message was the "What do you think you're doing?" repeated 64 times, and then I think we responded with something like seeking answers, and then he responded with art. at that point, I was very concerned that we were essentially like heckling him.
Right.
It was not at all welcome. But it did. I think like we figured out a cadence that made sense. And then Dom, I think, kind of recalibrated what he wanted to do with it to some extent.
It's